Hello, everyone. I'm Keith DeStone with the Center for Hellenic Studies, and I'm here as usual with Greg Nagy and Sarah and Jana and Elen for office hours for HeroesX for the 16th iteration of HeroesX. And we're talking today about the discussion board conversation in response to Greg's questions to hours 16 and 17, related to hours 16 and 17. In hour 16, this is the question you asked, Greg. In the Iliad, the view of Agamemnon is not as negative as it is in the drama of Achilles that is named after this hero. Do you agree or disagree with this statement? Give at least two examples from the Iliad and two examples from the Agamemnon to support your agreement or disagreement. So people should be getting into the text with this one.
Yes.
Especially.
Mm-hmm.
What are they saying about it?
Okay, one of them says that I cannot recall a mention of Agamemnon giving his daughter in sacrifice to Artemis in the Iliad. The Iliad leaves much to the imagination about Agamemnon, but Aeschylus paints a picture of the reality. It's Ate after Ate without hesitation. So.
Yeah, well, I think I'll hold off reacting to this wonderful participant's comments because I'd like to see if anybody felt that the Iliad also was quite negative.
Another participant mentioned that the way Agamemnon treated Achilles was very bad, and that is very obvious in the Iliad.
Yes.
Not this participant is not questioning Zeus and Artemis's compelling him.
Of course. Well, I think that's that would be Exhibit A for my view, my current view, that Agamemnon is behaving very badly in the Iliad, and that even when he offers a reconciliation, he is really insisting on his superiority over Achilles. Not just because he is over king, but because he happens to be over king. And if Achilles had accepted Agamemnon's offer, he would have undercut his own callous, his own epic reputation. And of course, Odysseus is partly to blame, in my opinion, since Odysseus does not repeat to Achilles the part of Agamemnon's offer that is really insulting, which is where he says, if he accepts my offer, then that proves that he is inferior to me. Wow. That's pretty harsh, isn't it? And I could go on and on about how negative even the Iliad is about Agamemnon, but I take the point that at least Agamemnon isn't sacrificing his daughter in the Iliad. That's for sure. That's for sure. Now I loop back to what our earlier comment by the earlier participant was all about. Yeah.
Somebody's picked up on how he's so angry at his own death, comparing it to the rage of Achilles. Agamemnon's anger means that he becomes boorish and petulant, but he doesn't lament the many thousands who died at Troy. And yet he was the leader, and probably some of his decisions, I guess, I'm extrapolating here, some of his decisions would have caused those.
Yes, yes, very much so. Very much so. That's what the beginning of the Iliad says. If there hadn't been this quarrel, a lot of deaths would have been averted. Yes.
And I think as modern readers, we often pick up on, oh, it's the anger of Achilles that causes all of this, but it's also the behavior of Agamemnon, right?
Yes, and I'm asking myself, did any of the participants pick up on the callousness that Agamemnon shows at the very beginning of the Iliad? Just the way he talks about his wife, who, after all, must have been his childhood sweetheart, because the Homeric epithet is Couridie, which means somebody I courted when I was young and when she was young. But I would argue that that is a very revealing side of Agamemnon, how he is. I think I used the word callous about his relationship with his wife, which goes all the way back to youth.
I think somebody mentioned it not in response to this question, but somewhere else in the forum. Give me a sec, I'll see if I can find it.
Yes, it's almost as if we were looping back to an earlier conversation, because I remember saying how at first the offer of Agamemnon to Achilles, where, oh, I have 3 daughters, pick one, and she's yours. And I used to think, wow, that's a pretty big offer. But it turns out that in the historical and prehistorical context of that kind of offer, if an overking gives away, so to speak, his daughter to a vassal, that proves that the vassal is a vassal. So if Achilles had married one of the 3 daughters of Agamemnon, who is mentioned in the Iliad, that would also undercut his status in the Iliad by showing him as a subservient vassal. Isn't it interesting?
Sorry, I was going to say, going back.
No, please.
So going back to his attitude to Clytemnestra, someone's picked up, as elsewhere on the forum, but where we see Agamemnon in Hades in the Odyssey.
Yes.
And he's blaming his wife for quote, obstructing his homecoming, and yet she's got plenty to be angry about.
Oh my goodness! Yes.
And I know that's partly we see Clytemnestra a little bit more in the next hour, but Agamemnon brings another woman to their house. It's not, in this case, it's not Briseis, or Chryseis, either of them. It's Cassandra. But it's the same sort of deal, right?
Oh, yes. And it's like, deal with it. He's got a very bad attitude. And so I don't think he's very admirable in either the Iliad or the Agamemnon of Aeschylus. And in many ways, I think Aeschylus is almost mirroring what I think in his time would be better known by way of the medium of tragedy than by way of the medium of epic. I've come around to thinking that by the time of Aeschylus, the entire Iliad and the entire Odyssey were no longer performed at the Panathenaic festival, even at the Great Panathenaea. There just simply wouldn't be time for it anymore. And so it's tragedy that's the main vehicle for the education of the body politic in their heroic past. Well, in the past of their heroes, I'll put it another way. Yes.
So I'm just sort of thinking it that the audience at the time of performances of the Iliad would have known those backstories. But for those of us who are coming to it in modern times, wouldn't have necessarily known some of the backstory and the forward story. We only get those little snippets.
Yes. And what you say, dear Sarah, is what I used to think decades and decades, but now I'm starting to doubt whether the backstory is known all that well by the Athenian body politic who comes, let's say they're 20,000 of them or 30,000, depending on how we interpret Plato. I'm less sure, but then I hesitate. Why is it that the name of Iphigenia is not Iphigenia in the Iliad? It's Iphianassa. It's almost as if Iphigenia would be too Athenian, too much part of the Athenian version of the myth. You see, you catch me at a moment when I have all sorts of second thoughts about the Iliad.
Yeah, and there is a mention from a participant to go back to how the Iliad shows Agamemnon in a worse light. It's in his treatment of Briseis, who is, after all,
Yes.
Achilles' love. I mean, you know.
Yes. So there's so much callousness I see now. And here's something about the beginning of the story of Troy. Can I put it that way? In Aeschylus's Agamemnon, is that the beginning of the words of the chorus is a perfect dactylic hexameter, which would be the epic medium, Kyrios eimi throein, etc., etc. I am authorized to voice the sound of epic. Well, maybe tragedy is becoming more and more of a substitute for epic, and maybe, as you so well put it, dear Sarah, the backstory that used to be very much there in earlier phases of the Homeric tradition may have become faded, so that it has to be brought back to life, as it were, by tragedy. Well, these are my current thoughts, but I'm very happy that there was a variety of responses to this provocative question.
So let's move forward in the story then to hour 17 and the other two tragedies in this cycle. The Furies are on whose side, really, in the libation bearers of Aeschylus and in the Eumenides of Aeschylus?
Yes.
What are people saying about this one?
Okay, there is one comment. I wonder if through the works of Aeschylus that we have read, beginning with the Agamemnon, if the Furies would simply follow one killing with another and the path of vendetta through each subsequent killing, the sacrifice of Agamemnon's daughter requires his own death at the end of his wife, then her death is needed in vengeance, and Orestes would be next.
Yes.
It's ate after ate, without end.
Without end. And that's why it's so important for Athena to step in as Our Lady of Athens, as the divinity who presides over a civilization that will transcend the vendetta, which is, after all, an Italian word derived from Latin vindicta, which is where we get in English words like vindictive, vindictiveness, etc. So there's still crime and punishment, but the punishment is now an instrument of civilization, not an instrument of an endless series of retribution. And the endlessness leads to chaos. And I love the fact that Eddie News is a feminine noun, and I can really see it as a kind of abstract embodiment of the rage that a hero, male or female, can have in life, but how dangerous that is when you take it to the grave with you. Then there's all this unfinished business, as I like to call it, that's just waiting to be unleashed from down there. And that's what the Furies are, personifications of.
And Furies are changing, getting better they are getting to a better place. Is this also showing Athens is becoming more civilized and in a way boasting that they are in a better place?
Yes, yes, we have trial by jury. And, I'm so amused, and dear Hélène can confirm this, that the French, who can be very snobbish about borrowing English words into their beautiful language, the French, as represented by the Académie Française, actually adopted as a French word the English word jury, le jury. Why? Because in Napoleonic law, there is no jury. So that's a kind of tip of the hat, even by the French. Well, the British have one plus over us, which is they have trial by jury, we don't. So in academic terms, when a dissertation is defended, the board of judges are le jury. So yes, I think it's absolutely right. Athens is bragging about how we are governed by the rule of law because we have trial by jury.
As part of one of the responses, someone's picked up on the way Athena, when she is inviting the Furies into the shared space, talks about herself as a gardener. And of course, we've seen these gardens as places where both deities and heroes reside, where they can be transformed. And so I was wondering, the Furies themselves actually go into caverns, but then they're not negative spaces. We've seen the nymphs of Odysseus, for example, I was thinking. Sure. So and I was thinking also that we've heard about this longing for the dead hero in the shared space, or the longing presumably also for the deities. Right. So I was wondering, are the Furies in a way, as you're talking about the embodiment of the unfinished business, there's almost a longing to put things right in some way?
Yes. And, I feel so sentimental about the fact that this group of ours, who are leaders of various travel study programs, all went together at separate occasions to the cave of the Eumenides at the foot of at ground zero of the Areopagus. My goodness, yeah, all six of us. No, five of us. I can't count. All five of us at various different times.
I think you must have included the entities who were there as well.
I think I did. I probably did. Remember how we used to joke about how this shared space is a condominium, but it's clear that the landlord is Athena.
Yeah, she lives on top, and the Furies live, as you said, in the basements.
Yes. But they're still needed. They're still needed, and because crime and punishment is still an operative thing. It's just that it's now civilized.
Mm-hmm. Would it have been self-evident, do you think, to other polises besides Athens that the jury system was better? To us, it seems that way, I would say. Those five of us here would probably say the jury system is better, but was it an innovation on their part? Would they have had to prove that it was better?
Here's a way to think of it, is that when you worship a hero, even if you're a member of a democracy, you still call the hero a king. So heroes are still part of this older political system. And we worship them, but it's a dysfunctional system. and so we pray to them as Lord this or Lord that, which is a royal title. If you look at the original Greek, but then trial by jury is not a royal thing, because it's not the king who judges you anymore. there are no live kings, supposedly. Of course, that gets flipped around by various Greek city-states, where, for example, at Syracuse, the tyrant of Syracuse is perfectly happy to be called king. And that's what the poetry of Pindar calls the tyrant of Syracuse. So I'm not saying that it's working everywhere, but certainly Athens can boast to some degree. And this gets very complicated because, after all, there's the king of, or the queen of the United Kingdom, right? And yet they have trial by jury. So I'm not saying that you can't wind up with both royalty, kind of an attenuated royalty, and trial by jury, but still. You can tell, dear Keith, I really like your question because it's not open and shut, whatever I'm trying to answer. If you have a constitutional monarchy, I guess you have to have trial by jury.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again for another wonderful conversation. I always look forward to these and look forward to next week.
And another tragedian. Very exciting.